Hey guys, so recently I made a change in my life, okay? So I used to do Code Zero. I used to write Code Zero, the code of Danny Milivojevic, in my laptop. And Code Zero is a structure I use for air writing, for writing. It's free flow writing. And I used to write Code Zero in my laptop, okay? But these days, I no longer write in my laptop at all. So I don't make any ebooks. And I don't write audiobooks anymore. I don't write ebooks anymore. But I post content on YouTube. I post content on social media threads. And you have to realize that, for example, because I don't do writing in my laptop anymore, I make music with my laptop. And I do DJing with my laptop. Okay? But I no longer write Code Zero inside of my laptop. Okay? Because I don't want to be looking at a screen for so long in my life. So what I do personally now is I use an e-writer, I use my fingers, and I use a pen. And I use my hands, okay, to write in different ways for myself. And I use a structure called Code Zero. And now when I go sleep, I bring an e-writer in bed, or I use a pen in bed, and I'm just e-writing to sleep, okay? And I found myself also, while I'm sleeping, I actually move my hand, and it's like I'm e-writing during my sleep. And because you have to understand that I've been e-writing for quite a while now, for over a year now, but during my dreams, I'm air writing, for example, because I air write so much in my daily life. Like, I don't want to miss a second without air writing, because I want to stimulate my mind and stuff like that. But because I'm not on the laptop anymore, writing on the laptop, I have more time for other things like writing with my hands, finger writing, writing in a book, for example, and keeping my thoughts to myself, for example, and posting ideas online on Instagram threads based on my writing and what I learn in my daily life. Because in my laptop, I have no use anymore to write ebooks and stuff like that, because you have to understand that writing ebooks is all nice and all that, but you have to understand the world today. You can write thousands of books and nobody will buy your books. That's the game today. You understand? That's basically what's happening in the world around you. You understand? People go and buy books from people who are advertising those books online. Those books that get in front of the audience first, they're the books that get sold. But let's say you don't advertise your books, then you're never going to sell books. You understand? So you can write thousands of books and post it online, self-published, everything. But nobody knows where your books are. Nobody knows about your account. Nobody knows you. Nobody's going to buy your books. You understand? So you have to understand that, like I said, you could write thousands of books and post it online, and not a person is going to buy your book. You understand? So that's what's been happening with me for the past 7 years. I have not become a millionaire selling books and stuff like that. And you have to realize that, for example, I've learned things from writing books, like skills I can use in my daily life, and ways to think about and ways to go about my life and spread ideas and solve problems and all that. That's all nice and well. But some recent things I've learned about writing is write for yourself, don't write for other people, like whatever you learn in your daily life, post it online, okay? Post it somewhere on social media. But just understand you're not going to make money from posting online content, okay? You have to understand posting online content is part of the process of making money online. But what makes you money online is when you're paid advertising your content through landing pages, and people are buying your content through landing pages that you're advertising to people in front of people on social media. Basically, that's what will make you money online. You understand? But to go one further from that, let's say you're making money online now and stuff like that. Now it's time to make events around people too, and then getting in the business of yourself, relying on yourself to get the job done, relying on yourself to talk to people, basically to have friends, to not just have friends, but to have business relationships, people you're working with in daily life for a common goal, brainstorming ideas, giving that to other people, but doing it in real life, basically from the work that you've done already. You have to transition into the period where, for example, a music producer eventually becomes a DJ, and a DJ who's a music producer eventually goes nightclubs to play their music, and then goes around the world playing their music, making a living from their music, okay? But let's say you're a life coach or a public speaker or something, or a writer, then let's say you're a writer, then from your writing, you want to make a living, don't you? So then you have to sell your work online, make some money online, and then eventually the things you write about in daily life, you have to talk to people about that in real life, okay? So a writer who writes for a living, okay, tries to make money online, and then eventually transition into a public speaker, talking to people at seminars about the things that they've learned to make money from people in real life events, to travel the world doing it. So the thing I've learned about laptop writing, 7 years of experience here, writing on my laptop. It's all nice, I've learned a lot of things, I've talked to myself a lot during that 7 years. I've used my laptop quite a bit, and my laptop's done its work, it's done its work. I'm really happy, and I'm congratulating myself for using my laptop that much during those years, because I wrote a heap of work, okay, that you can find on my social media, okay? You can find everything on my social media. And, I've given over 70,000 ideas in just quotes, okay? And 70 ebooks here, 11 hours of music here, 2,500 videos on YouTube. I've made a profile for myself, and not just that, I'm a photographer as well. And what do I do photography of? I do photography of myself. I pull myself on the camera and I brand myself. But my laptop writing has now gone into my finger writing, okay? Or air writing, okay? So basically what I'm doing now is I'm no longer sitting down looking at a screen in terms of laptop screen and writing in my laptop, I think it's time to transition from laptop writing to air writing, like with fingers and with pen and with my hand. Using an e-writer in the process, that's what I'm doing now. And I just don't want to go backwards, I don't want to go backwards, some recent things that I've, let's say, transitioned from. I used to watch pornography, okay? And I no longer watch pornography. I use air writing to overcome pornography. I use my hands to overcome pornography. And I stimulate my mind in the process. That's what I use. And also, for example, I'm not going back to cigarettes anymore because I have vaping, okay? I can vape in Australia. And because I can vape, I no longer need to smoke those cheap cigarettes, market smokes, that made me feel so bad, and now, since I'm no longer watching pornography, I'm no longer smoking cigarettes, I'm no longer writing in my laptop, for example, I'm now looking forward to other things in my life, like writing with my hands, writing with my pen, using an e-writer, basically transitioning myself into another state of mind, into another life for myself. Basically, all this online stuff that you see, that you work and you're writing stuff and you're posting online, and all you're going to get for it is views. You're just going to get video time in terms of time watched on your profile, and views, like numbers of views, okay, engagement. That's all you'll get from people online. But let's say the next step forward is to advertise your content and sell your content online, okay, with paid advertising, to transition into that period where you're advertising your socials to make money on your content. That's the next step for you, okay? So you can start with $5 a day, $10 a day, $20 a day. That's where I recommend you start, okay? Basically. And then it's like, enjoy yourself in your daily life, you got one life to live. Try to have fun in the process when you meet people. Try to talk to them. Try to get to know them. Ask them questions. There's billions of questions you can ask a person about anything, and don't be afraid to ask about what you want from that person. It's always good to ask, whether it be asking them for sex, asking them for a kiss, asking them to go out with you somewhere, asking them to go to dinner, asking them to go for lunch or breakfast, asking them to come with you somewhere, asking them to go to the shops with you, asking them out to the movies. Just ask, ask, and ask for help. It's good to ask people for help. You can't do everything by yourself. You can do some things about yourself. You can do some things by yourself, but you can't do absolutely every single thing that there is to do by yourself. You understand? You can do some things, okay? You can do what you can do, okay? But then eventually you need people to work with. You need to collaborate with people. You need to be an influencer. You need to be a social media influencer. You need to enjoy your life. You need to brainstorm. You have to stimulate your mind. Use your hands. Use your hands to stimulate your mind. Start really practicing about whatever it is that you do, okay? Start practicing your passions. My real work that I do is my passions, because my passions, I'll do that for free. It's what I do after 9 to 5. It's what I do when I'm not working 9 to 5. Whether it be writing, music production, whatever it is, I write, I make music. That's what I do. Occasionally, I take photos of myself, I do social media. That's my passion, And my passion used to be different things before. It used to be certain people. It used to be gaming. It used to be chess. It used to be certain things in my life I used to do that I no longer do anymore, And now I've transitioned into a better life, I'm more stable, my mentality is more stable because I used to go rehab. I used to go with mental health issues to social workers, to psychiatrists, psychologists. I used to struggle a lot, even with my weight issues as well. A lot of people don't see the things that I went through. I had a drug addiction in my life. I was taking meth. I was taking ecstasy and weed and smoking cigarettes for a good 10 years of my life. So I've been through a lot. I've been through a lot, and now I'm transitioning. I don't watch pornography anymore, and I don't write in my laptop anymore. Those are some of my recent things that I'm doing. And also, with that said, I'm no longer going back to cigarettes. I'm not going back to cigarettes. And I'm moving forward. I have a way to quit vaping with nicotine lozenges. I can quit coffee as well with black tea, and transition that way. And you know what I enjoy in my life? Like, this is something that you would not even guess. In terms of you will not be able to pinpoint what I'm about to say. I enjoy my fingers. Do you know why? Because my fingers can bring me the world. My fingers can really help me. And my fingers are part of my hands. My hands are part of my body. Because I can use my fingers, I can stimulate my mind. I can speak. I can do whatever I need to do to help myself to get to the next level. I really don't want to write in my laptop anymore. I want to make music with my laptop. And I want to DJ. But I already see I'm not going to make money from DJing online. Anything I do online, I'm not going to make money from it. I'm only going to make money from it when I paid advertise with ClickFunnels. That's the only time I'm going to make money with my content. But everything I post on SoundCloud or YouTube or on Instagram, Snapchat, all those social medias, I'm not going to make money from it. You understand? I may be helping the world in some kind of way, but to make money online, you have to pay to advertise. You have to pay to advertise your content to people via landing pages and then email market them and run your business that way. That's the next step for me, personally, to get to that level. And I need to do that, I have to get to that stage. But it's been a fun journey, making all this content that I did make in my life. It's on my profile, it's on my profile. God knows I made all this content for people, Maybe it's my key to eternity, maybe it's not, But for the next 50 years, I'm going to try my best to quit vaping and to quit coffee and try to make music a whole lot, study music production, study my school stuff and all that stuff, because I'm studying community services at the moment and I do want to do it. And I've been really thinking, because recently I've been writing on my laptop and I've been really talking to myself, about things. But now I no longer need to talk to myself writing on the laptop. I can talk to myself with my hands, I can use my e-writer to talk to myself. I can just be stimulating my mind with my hands. Sometimes using my pen, sometimes using my fingers, sometimes using my e-writer. And, when I go to the shower, I use a pen. I use a pen in the shower. And I just e-write while I'm showering. While I go toilet, I use a pen. I don't listen to audio programs or video programs while I'm in the toilet. I'm just e-writing, And when I'm with my dad, I look at him. My dad doesn't have a long time left, And I wonder how I'm gonna do once he's gone. I live with my dad, but you have to understand something. I choose to live with my dad, because I'm in Australia just with my dad, He's my only family here in Australia, other than me. And you have to understand that I only got my dad and myself in Australia. I got God. But my family, in terms of life, is all over the place. Okay, they're all overseas as well. And, things are happening, I can go through lots of information. I can go through heaps of information. And I can stimulate my mind through it. Of course I want to become everything that I want to become. I want to become that man that God wants me to be. I'm trying to help the world in some kind of way. I'm trying to spread my knowledge, spread my ideas, everything to help the world, everything to help people around me. And I'm trying to give as many ideas as I can. I'm trying to become that version of myself that I've always dreamt of. That six-pack abs, bodybuilder, public speaker, rich man, drives a fast car, whatever it is, traveling the world, has a beautiful wife and kids, has got all this real estate and all this kind of stuff, and, has many relationships, many friendships, and, it has family beside him and everything, I mean, and then I see myself now and I'm like, oof, there's so much to go, there's so much to do, but I don't expect myself to achieve all that, I don't expect myself to achieve anything in life. Of course I try to achieve things. I try to do the most I can. I try to give of myself, and I try to brand myself. I try to be a social media influencer, give content, all this kind of stuff, and leave a documentary of myself online, or leave a part of me online, But, who knows what the future will bring, but I'm positive, I'm optimistic. I am an opportunist, so that means that I look for opportunity. And you have to understand that opportunities are everywhere. You just have to understand to focus on your direction, focus on where you're going with your life. Everyone's different. Everyone's got a different YouTube channel, different social media, different everything, They look different, they speak different, they do life differently, they have different finances, different clothing, different body image, everything's different about them, and they live in, everyone's different, and everyone lives in different areas of life, different nationalities, so you just want to make the most of your life. make the most of it, Try to get to the end of your life and not regret your life, Don't regret your path and where you're going, and, try to live the best way you can. Try to do the most you can. Try to experience something profound that other people have not experienced. Try to be a good person, just be a good person. Like, being good is enough, Some people you'll never be able to impress. Some people you'll never be able to impress. Some people will make you feel like you're not worthy, like you're not good enough for them, all this kind of stuff, And there are plenty of people out there who set so many expectations on other people that they end up becoming very disappointed with people around them, because those people around them are not to that level that they expect them to be, So you have to understand, don't set expectations on other people. Society tries to set expectations on society. And don't set expectations on anything. Okay? Don't set expectations for yourself. Don't set expectations on other people. Achieve what you can achieve, Do what you can. You understand? No one's asking you to do more than you can. You just do what you can do. You understand? But you have to understand that you have to help the world in some kind of way. But you have to help yourself the most. You have to help yourself get to the stage in life where you're truly at peace with who you are. You have to be at peace with yourself. And don't seek validation from other people at all. Don't seek for other people to call you smart, to call you a god, or to call you something great. Because they're never going to tell you. You understand? They're never going to tell you. And don't seek for other people to do your work for you. You understand? Your work is solely your work. You do your work in the world. And I want to say that in life, go your way. Your way. You understand? Your sole direction that you're going in, you push forward. You push forward in your life. And every single day, do the most you can and be inspirational for yourself. You understand? Call yourself an inspiration every day. Even when other people are not calling you an inspiration. You stand for inspiration. You stand for yourself. You stand for who you are. You stand up for yourself. And you try to do the best job you can for yourself. You understand? So when you do that, everything happens. So anyway, guys, I want to say just one more thing. Live your life the best way you can. Do the most you can with what you got. And see you guys in the next program.